Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was running a little bit late tonight, trying to get the live stream set up. I have my Teach Freedom because I'm getting you financially free, hopefully, this evening. And if you would like these t-shirts, my cousin makes them and they all say different things, like teach different things. So I'll put that in the link below. But today we're talking all about budgeting because I put a link to my a little poll on the community page, and a lot of people wanted to know about budgeting, which it was between budgeting and credit. So that's what I'm going to stay on topic today. And I'm going to only answer questions related to budgeting. So if you put that in the comments, I will answer them, get them in as quickly as possible. Thanks everyone for joining me. Jennifer, how you doing? Coco Pink, I see you. Elle, I see you. So I'm going to start off with a couple of things. I'm a budgeter by nature. I think part of it is our nature. I like security. I like stability. So I budget. So I'm not surprised by what's coming up. But some people, I think personality wise, my husband included, likes to live on the edge a little bit, live on the edge and not have like a certain plan. And so I think as we get older, especially, we have to make sure, I think as young as possible, to put our emotions in check as it pertains to our finances. Because when you're living without a budget, you are making emotional decisions with your money as opposed to decision. You're thinking with your emotions and not your head. So one person, I was listening to one person and he said it like this. He said, when you want to sleep in bed, you want to stay in bed and not get up and go to work, that's emotional. Like that's what you want to do. Emotionally, you just want to chill out and stay in bed. But your head, your mind says get up and go to work, right? Because there's consequences there if you stay in bed. Getting your kids out the door, making them go to school, anything that you're doing that emotionally you're like, let's just chill out. But you say, go to school. You say, brush your teeth. You say, do all of these things because it's not emotional at that point. It's something that has to happen. So you really need to, as much as possible, take the emotion out of your spending. Take the emotion 100% out of your spending as much as possible. And if you do want to spend on emotion, then say, okay, this is, $100 I'm going to give myself, or $50, whatever your budget is, I'm going to give this amount for spending. And that's when I can spend emotionally, but it still has limits on it. If you've ever watched, I have two videos, and one of the videos is how my husband and I do our budget. Like, how do we decide how we're going to have spending money and that sort of thing? We both have a set amount that we've agreed upon. You get this, I get this. This is what we're saying we need for the month. And then you could spend that emotionally, but don't have your emotions messing up our whole financial future. So if that set amount is what you allow yourself, at one time I had allowed myself like $25 a week. And I could emotionally spend. If I want to go to Starbucks, I want to do whatever, that's $25. I can emotionally spend that. But was my whole month emotional? No. So we have a budget every single month of where our money is going. And we stick to that budget. So the only emotional spending that we have is outside of that. And last thing before I take your questions is, when you're trying to decide whether you really, really want something, you need to ask yourself, if I couldn't share this on social media, if nobody knew that I did this, would you still do it? Because a lot of times we're doing things for people that, just to show off, or just to show people what we got, so people know that we have something, even though we may not have something. So if you're making purchases, if you're buying things, if you're doing things, and you're thinking, okay, if I couldn't share this with anybody, if only person was going to know I got this was me, would I still purchase it? Is that something I would still do financially? And then if you're making a good decision or not, because some of our financial decisions are based on other people. So you want to stop doing that as well. I'd recommend that you do your budget at the beginning of the month, and then at the beginning of the month, you do your budget. You look at it again, because we pay our bills the 1st and the 15th. So first, late, nothing gets off this schedule that we have. And I do it my strength. So whoever the strength is, not always the woman or the man, or you're just by yourself. If you're single, then you have the ultimate control. Like I still have to compromise with my husband on what we do. But when I was single, I had complete control. So you actually even have more power when you're single. We may have more financial, more financially when you're married sometimes, but we also have to compromise in what we do with our money. So I'm going to start taking questions about budgeting because these bills won't pay themselves. I hear that. Okay, so this is the first question. Hey, Chelsea, good. I'm happy you called me as well. Do you maintain a budget directly after buying a new home? Yes. You even need to have a budget even more after buying a new home because you may have other expenses that you didn't have when you were renting. So you want to make sure that any time in your life, I don't care if it's your children, they're at they have a little part-time job, they should be doing a budget. Everybody should be doing a budget to again, you set your goals at the beginning of the year. We sit down and say, this is where we want to be financially. And then we set our budget to make sure that happens. So you have to be going off of some kind of guideline. If you're not, everything is emotional. You haven't sat down and said, these are my goals. This is what I need to do financially to reach those goals. And then you stick to it. If you don't have a budget, you just got some money, I'm spending it. And then you wonder at the end of the year why you don't have anything saved. Why didn't you have anything invested? Because you didn't work a plan. And a lot of people, they'll work for 30 years and have nothing to show for it at the end of the 30 years because their life has been just, it's been run by emotion and never a plan. All right, so let me go for questions. So one thing, and I think there's a big gap, and I talk about this in some of my videos, the huge gap between renters and homeowners. I think a portion of that is just equity, of course, in somebody's home. But I think another portion of that is the mindset. When you're buying a house, you have to make sure your credit is together. You have to make sure you have enough for a down payment, your closing costs, those types of things. So you actually you mature financially, maybe a little bit faster than renters, because you have to make sure you are financially sound in order to get a mortgage. So I think that's also a part of the wealth gap between renters and homeowners is the fact that you are more mature financially because you were trying to reach a goal. All right, so let's see my first question. How do you budget when the mandatory bills are more than what your liquid is? This is a good question. Okay, so you have to cut back. That's just the bottom line. So if your expenses, that's what you're saying, if your expenses are more than your you have to cut back. So now you have to write everything down, write everything that you're spending down, and in what areas can you cut back. And I know this is hard for a lot of people because they're used to living a certain lifestyle, and maybe their income goes down, or something happens, they wind up spending more. But you have to cut your lifestyle. You have to cut your lifestyle. That might be moving. That might be stopping doing some things. That might be selling a car that you have. A lot of us get into debt way above our income, and it's at all income levels. Just because people are making more doesn't mean that they have savings. I have a lot of people that are making a lot of money that still are looking for down payment assistance because they haven't saved anything. A lot of times when we increase our income, we also increase our lifestyle. And so if you're living above your lifestyle, you have to look at your lifestyle and say, where can I cut back? And I recommend that even before you go out and get extra income, because that's another thing you probably are going to have to do is say, okay, how can I make more money? But until you have control of what you already have, that's just going to be difficult for you. You'll get more money and you want them spending that too, because you haven't built that saving, that budgeting muscle, because it's going to take discipline. If you're used to spending on whatever you want, then you don't anymore. It's hard to have that discipline around spending again. All right, so I think so. Happy Valley Farm says, is 50-30-20 still a good strategy? And I'm thinking break down the 50. I don't want to say it wrong. Is the 50-20? Break down what the 50-30-20 is. I think 50 is spending, 30 is investing, and 20 is. So tell me what the 50-30-20 is, and I'll tell you. How do you budget with student loans on the way? So you need to anticipate what that student loan payment is going to be. So if you haven't been in repayment of your student loans, You want to anticipate what that payment is going to be, and hopefully it will fit in your current budget. There are definitely a lot of different options for student loans. So you could be on an income-based plan. You can be on, there's a lot of different income-based plans. So you want to add that to your budget and have a plan on to how you're going to pay those student loans off with your current strategy. Do you have to have new income? Can you pay it with your current income? A lot of times, because there's a lot of controversy, I think, between paying off debt versus buying a house first, or what you're going to do first. And I think, again, it's kind of an emotional issue. Some people don't want to get into a house until they paid off all their debt. But to me, I think people limit themselves when they can't do two things at once. You can buy a house and pay off your debt. You can do both. You just have to make a plan to do both. So if you stop paying your student loan to save up for a down payment, then you may delay your student loan, maybe 2 years, depending on how quickly you can save, but you'll be in a house 2 years. You have a lot of people who are regretting that because maybe homes have gone up in the last 2 years, 25%, 30% in value in a lot of cases, and they still have that student loan debt. So they missed that opportunity for equity. So at least you have the opportunity for equity and you'll pay off your house. If you ever watch Dave Ramsey, when people call him and they're like, I'm in debt, I have a house, should I sell my house? He very, very rarely, like you got to be in a whole bunch of debt for him to tell you to sell your house. He never, and I've listened to him for years and years. He very rarely tells somebody to pay off their house, to pay off their debt, because he knows your house is an asset and that's going to grow in value and you still have to live somewhere. So you might as well just pay off your debt while you're still living in your house. So I don't really, tell people pay off your debt and buy a house unless emotionally they want to feel more comfortable. But a lot of times, say it takes you 5 years to pay off your debt, that's 5 years that you miss in potential equity in that house. All right. So Ms. Jenkins said, I can't stop buying camera stuff. I know my future spouse would divorce me. Camera stuff. All right, I hope you're a photographer. So hopefully it's a write-off. Let's talk about that in a second. Everybody should have a home-based business of some sort. I don't care if it's tutoring. I don't care if it is cooking on the side, landscaping, whatever it is. You can start writing off of some of the expenses that you have, be it mileage, cell phone, utilities. If you have a home-based business, it just gives you a lot of opportunity to start writing off of some of your expenses. What app do you recommend to do a budget? I know a lot of people use Mint. I know MINT. Dave Ramsey has Every Dollar. Y'all want to see my budget? I don't have an app. Like, I'm old school. I write everything down. I do use an Excel spreadsheet, but basically this is it. I write everything down on like an Excel spreadsheet and I print it out and then I cross it off. Like, it's, to me, I need things written. I don't want to see it in the app. I want to see it, do it, and then that's it. Like, I don't need to constantly look at an app as to what's being spent and what's not being spent. But I know, I don't want to quote you any, apps, but there are a lot of apps. Mint.com, I think, has a good app. And then that might be a video I need to do. But Mint, Every Dollar, and basically a lot of those things, they connect to your checking account. So you can see, so say you put aside, you say, I'm going to do $200 on food, then that app will say, okay, you're close to your limit. I love the envelope system when you're trying to get control. And then say, okay, I got $50 a week. I might of that money a little bit better. How should we budget for property taxes, for example, a home or apartment? Okay, so property taxes are not going to change drastically from owner to owner. So you'll be able to see your property tax estimation based on what the previous owner's property taxes were. And most cases, you're paying your property taxes with your mortgage. So all of that, anytime I'm talking about a mortgage, I'm talking about the whole mortgage, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, PMI, if you're paying PMI. I'm talking about the entire thing. So when you're trying to, you generally speaking, don't pay your property taxes separate from your mortgage unless you put more than 20% down. Even if sometimes you put 20% down, they still want you to escrow your property taxes. But if you have a property tax bill separate from your mortgage, you estimate what that's going to be based on the prior person's tax bill. And then you start saving for that. So when the tax bill does come, you have the money to pay it. What's my next question? Somebody said, Nisi, next question. I don't see the question. What do you do if you're sick of budgeting? Why are you sick of it? Okay, so I wouldn't be sick of it if I'm reaching my financial goals. So quite literally, like my husband and I, and he's the fun person of the group. But we're going to sit down for 2022 and say, what are our financial goals? Like, where are we trying to, this is what we did for 2021. What are we trying to do for 2022? Like, this is an actual meeting that might take 2 hours for us to go over where we are and where we want to be. And then once we decide on that, that's it. Unless there's something, some financial thing that happens to us during the year, that's what we decided. So we don't have to always discuss it. Like, we don't have to keep on talking about it or whatever. We had this meeting. Now that's our financial meeting for 2022. Then we have our budget every month to try to reach those goals. And then that's it. And then 2023, we'll have another meeting. Another thing we do with our children, we'll sit down at the beginning of the year and say, what are some things that you want to do this year? Like, what is something you want to experience? And then we write that down and say, okay, is that something we need to start budgeting for? Do you want to go to Disney? Like, they want to go to Disney. Haven't been to Disney yet. They really want to go. So that's been on our list. And the pandemic kind of stopped us for the last 2 years, but that is probably going to be back on the hill table this year. But we're going to have to say, okay, what does that look like for us? Do we need to budget? We're going to have to budget for that. And this is how we're going to reach that goal. So all of those things get on the table at the beginning of the year. And then that becomes the family budget. You need to sit down with yourself and say, what goals am I going to try to reach this year? And then set a budget accordingly for that. But you should definitely be saving, investing, and debt payoff. You need to be doing a lot of those things at once. Some financial advisors say, don't focus so much on your student loans because they have a lower interest rate than average in the stock market. Your 401k, your Roth IRA is probably about 10% over time. But you might have not student loan debt. You might have credit card debt at 20% or higher. So you might want to prioritize that. So you're going to have to put a plan in place to say, what does this look like? And what sacrifices might I have to make, right? What sacrifices might I have to make to make this happen? I used to do budgeting classes, for different organizations. And I remember I had a husband and wife, and the wife got like these really expensive weaves. Like, she got her hair done every 2 weeks, and it was really expensive. It was like $200 maybe at a time, so maybe $400, and they really couldn't afford it. And so those are some of the sacrifices that, as a person or as a couple group, you may have to make to say, okay, what's our compromise here? Can you get it done once? Can you get it done once a month instead of twice a month? Like, what can we do to make this work where you're still going to be happy? But those are sacrifices. And she saw it as something she had to have. Like, there was no compromise on it. This is what I have to have. And when you're dealing with people like that, it's kind of, immature. They're putting their emotions, right, how they want to be seen, on top of how financially secure they were not, because they weren't financially secure. Imagine you investing $400 a month, every month over time. You're going to be way better off than something that, has no real value over time. All right. So there are so many people that are house poor that are homeowners. I don't see that as mature. Okay, let me talk about that. Just because you're a homeowner doesn't make you financially wise, right? Because a lot of people have overburdened themselves with house payments or mortgage payments. The same is true for people living in apartments. There are people living in apartments. Just because you're in an apartment doesn't mean that you're doing the right thing because you're saving money. That's not the case. It could be both sides. Some people are apartment poor because they're paying, 3 times what somebody in a house is paying for a much smaller place. So I'm not saying it's blatantly like people in apartments are doing it right and people in homes are doing it right. It really depends on how you bought that property and what your income is. Because I always recommend 25 to 30% of your income maximum for your mortgage. or wherever you're living. So if you're paying more than 25 to 30% to live in an apartment, you're really in trouble because you're not like money that's going away. So I think this is my answer for Ray. It's not really a question, but it's not about maturity. What I meant to say, or let me clarify that. When you buy a house, there are certain things you have to make sure are in place in order to purchase that you don't have to have when you're buying an apartment. So the wealth gap, I think there's definitely a wealth gap. The wealth gap between renters is about $7,000, the net worth of them, and then homeowners is about $250,000. I have a video on that. So the wealth gap is huge. Okay, that's not something I'm making up. That's like fact. The wealth gap is huge. I think it's number one, it's equity, but I think it's also two, when you're buying a home, it forces you to get your financial house in order. It forces you to save. And when you're buying an apartment, the bar is not very high. A lot of times in Atlanta, they want your apartment to be, your mortgage to be 3 times your income. If you can show them that you're making 3 times the rental payment, you can get an apartment. They don't look at your debt to income ratio. They don't look at all of that. You know, the bar is much lower to get an apartment than there is to get a house. All right. Should you budget your stimulus check? Okay. Yes. Okay. You should be budgeting any money that comes. You should be budgeting any money that comes into your house. You should be budgeting. And if it's unexpected, so nobody expected the stimulus payment or whatever, you know, when they came in, but you should have made a plan with that and you should have a plan. If you get any extra money, where's it going to go first? Is it going to go to debt? Is it going to go to savings? Is it going to go to investing? So when that money comes, it's not wasted. So you should have a plan for any money that's coming into you as to what you would do with it first. Car notes are the devil. Okay. Yes. Car notes are not good. How do you budget closing costs? I have budgeted for the home deposit, but I feel burned out. Get your estimate. So you have to get an estimate from the lender. So you know what the closing costs are going to be. You have to get an estimate and they tell you specifically, these are the closing costs. And I would save for that, even if, you know, you get maybe down payment assistance or if you get a seller credit, at least you're very prepared for whatever that closing cost amount is going to be. I recommend that people save 7% of the house price. So if you're buying a $100,000 house, you save $7,000 because if you're doing something like FHA or conventional, the 3% conventional options, then that's going to be about $3,000 or $3,500 in down payment, and then the other 3% or 3.5% would be for the closing cost. So 7% of the projected home price should get you in the ballpark of what you need. And then for an estimate, so you can be even clearer, like closer to that amount. Carry out food and wants. Grubhub is the devil. I've never done any kind of food service. They don't come in uniforms. They look like they just rolled out of bed and started, you know, delivering food. So I don't do that. So it probably is the devil. I have no idea. All right, let's see other questions. I've been living with family. I'm currently looking to buy soon. How do I set an emergency fund since I haven't rented in a while? Use your projected amount. You kind of know what, if it's recommended that you only spend 25 to 30% of your take home pay for a mortgage, that's your estimated payment. So now you want to start saving that amount to see, okay, you know, you're not living with a mortgage or rent right now, but you still need to save in anticipation of what that payment is going to be. I say in some of my videos as well, I moved out of right out of college, pretty much I moved out. I should have stayed longer. Some people need to move back home, stay for like a year, 2 years, get their money together and then go back out. But I think that's a good idea, but you're saving for whatever your goals are. You have to sit down and say, okay, what are my goals? What are my debt goals? My investing goals? What are some of the things that I want to accomplish this year? And is it going to cost me any money? So those are your financial goals that you need to set this year in anticipation of next year. Okay, I'm late to the conversation. Would save over paying off debt. Okay, I don't like you to have no money saved And I'm not saying save a lot of money, but save something so if an emergency happens, you're not putting it on a credit card, right? So you want to have some money saved. 3 months of expenses would be good to start out, at least 3 to 6 months, and then start paying off debt. If your debt interest rates aren't that high, you want to start, like if you have an option at your job for a 401k, Roth IRA, you can start saving in those things and paying off debt, because the long-term value of those investments are going to be more than paying off certain debt. So you have to decide what you're going to do, but everybody's situation is a little bit different, but your goal should be to pay off debt. It should be to invest your money as soon as possible. You want to start investing and to have some kind of savings, so when emergencies happen, you don't go to debt to get it paid off, and you don't panic when those things happen. So how much should I budget for property tax in the first year? Okay, I can't, Ro knows, you need to get an estimate from your lender, or this is what you do. You can go, tax records are public record. So you can look up a house in your local area and see what they're paying in property, and they haven't given you an estimate yet. Just go and look, because there's not a percentage, because taxes, if you're in New York, taxes are a certain amount. If Georgia, taxes are another amount, and it's by county. So different counties would have different property taxes. So it's really a question I cannot answer. You have to get an estimate either from your lender, or you need to get a general ballpark from homes in your local. So if you know of a neighborhood that you want to be in, you can look up those houses on the tax records and see what they're paying in property taxes to get an estimate of what you might have to pay. Okay. All right. So Happy Value gave me the breakdown: 50% mortgage and bills. And that needs to be 30% for wants, entertainment, and savings. I don't necessarily like those percentages, because I think when you set a percentage for everyone, that may not work. I mean, what if my mortgage and my everything is cheaper than that? What if it's 40% and then I save 20%? Because a lot of people, I think you need to set your goals first. The goals definitely need to include savings. And let me say this: once you save a certain amount, that's it. Like, you save enough for emergencies, and then you start investing, because these banks are, even online banks, you're not getting a high percentage return on that savings. So you have to invest. So you save, say 3 to 6 months, you have that saved, you're done with savings, right? And then you're moving to investing. Only if something maybe comes up that you want to do, then you may start saving a little bit more on the side of that. But I don't like just a blatant, because some people may save more, invest more money than other people. So I don't like the set percentages, but I do think that you need to be saving, you need to be investing, you need to be paying off debt. And then I think that home payment, because so say your mortgage payment is 20% of your, if your mortgage payment is 20% of your take-home pay, are you saying that I need to just spend my other 30% on whatever I want and then invest the rest? Maybe I need to invest 40%. Like, so I think you have to make those are probably good guidelines. But I think you need to sit down with yourself and say, what percentage, because you have investment calculators, mortgage calculators. If I want to be in this position by this time, like in our family, we're basing a lot of our financial goals over when our kids get out the house. So my youngest is 8, so we have 10 years. Where do we want to be when she's going to college financially? So a lot of those things, that's a personal thing, because we have these kids, this is what we want to be. So we would maybe invest differently than you. Also, if you're older, maybe more needs to be going to investing than going to. Is a personal thing as to the percentages, but you definitely need to keep your bills low, because they're not building. Once you pay your bills, that's it. And then you need to invest to reach your goals. Whatever those goals are, you need to invest. So if you want to retire when you're 40, you need to be investing at a faster rate than somebody who says, "Oh, I'll work till I'm 60," right? Okay, she said Dave Ramsey, she's legit. They're funny. I'm a male, 25 years old, scared of living by myself, but also believe I can do it. Caught between getting an apartment for 1 year and diving into buying a house. Got a decent down payment. Words of advice: get the apartment first. This is why I'm going to say that. Get the apartment because you're number one, you're young. I think you need to be ready to live in a house for 5 to 7 years. If you're not ready to make that commitment, I would, just get a feel for living on your own, get a feel of paying bills, get a feel of, doing all of those things first. And then once you have that, go ahead and buy your house. I'm going to have tomorrow a video about buying your first rental property, but you may want to, especially if you don't have any kids or you're kind of flexible, to start house hacking. So maybe your first house, after you live in this apartment for 1 year, you buy it with the FHA loan, 3% or 3.5% down, or conventional, either one. And then you live in it for a year, maybe 2 years. And then you rent it. You buy another house, live in it for 1 or 2 years, then you rent it. You could build your rental portfolio in that way. But I would rent as cheap as possible, right? Just so I can get a feeling, get used to paying my utilities, get used to paying bills. And then, go ahead, once you know where you want to live, because again, you're going to live in that place for 5 to 7 years. You have to build some equity. You can't just get into that apartment. Get in the house and say, oh, I don't like it, I'm going to sell. So get that experience, know your neighborhoods, know all that stuff, because I think depending on how you are, you may want to have more flexibility in where you move. I'll say I have somebody with a super chat. It's a big super chat. Thank Elle, you're the sweetest. Elle is like I think I'll call you my number one fan, Elle, because you're always on there. I really appreciate that. Investing the time. I appreciate that, Elle. And you're one of my favorites. So when I mess up, she's there. When I get it right, she's there. And I read all my comments. So I feel like y'all are family and I know you. So I appreciate that. So Skyline, thank you for your question. If I save more than 20% of my down payment for a home, should I strive to just make the minimum 3.5% down payment and save the remaining for unexpected house expenses? Okay, Tave. Good that you're saved up to 20%. You'll pull y'all over. Costs. Let's talk. You're going to have to look at, what can I do with this other 17%? If I put the money down on a house, I would save PMI, but I also don't have that money to invest. Should I invest that money instead? Because again, interest rates are still low. They're 3%. So you're paying that down. You're going to save that 3% interest. But what could you be doing with that money? So those are the questions you need to ask yourself to say, okay, let's just go 100,000 again. Instead of putting $3,500 down, you're going to put $20,000 down. What else could you be doing with that $17,000? That's going to grow probably more than just paying off your mortgage or paying down your mortgage. Those are the decisions that you have to make. And some people, they want to put it there. And it really also depends on how quickly did it take you, how quickly can you resave that amount of money? So some people may want to invest it, and some people may want to apply it to their mortgage. So you need to look at the other things you could be doing with that money, the opportunity cost of that money. Ms. Jenkins says Mint is awesome. So yeah, get Mint. It links right to your checking account, so you'll be able to see if you're, on your budget. Hey, always a lady. Lord, she be typing and typing. I personally see Excel. I guess that's because I'm Excel certified, y'all. Because when I was teaching, I would do Excel. I would teach Excel, so I'm all about the Excel. I have a notebook dedicated to bills. I do too. I try to bring all my little stuff, y'all. It's old school. Like I got a folder and I have our budgets from like January of 2021 to December 2021. And then we could look at it again and say, okay, did we, do the things that we agreed to do? So I keep everything in that folder. And at the beginning of the year, when it's time for like tax time, I'll keep all of those things together, and then I'll start the next year of budgets. All right, ideal on how to budget with direct deposit. I used to do it when I would get my check and have cash in hand, but now I struggle with direct deposit. At most companies, they allow you to direct deposit into multiple places. So first, I want you to check your HR department and see, can you, like, say you get your direct deposit 100% into one account. Can you separate that out and say, I want 10% here, I want 20% here? You could do that automatically. If that's not an option for you, what I do is, so say I get a commission check, right? When I get a commission check, it's automatically split. And this is how it's split. I use 10% for marketing. I use 30% for taxes. So it automatically goes into an account. And then 60% goes into our joint account. And then we, have, that is our, where we reach our other financial goals. So 40% of that money is automatically gone. Like I never even put it in our joint account. As soon as the check hits, the direct deposit hits, because I can't do it with my brokerage. As soon as it hits, 10% goes here, gets transferred, 30% gets transferred, and then 60% gets transferred automatically. So I'm only ever dealing with that 60%. Only dealing with that 60%. So once, and that 60% has its own plan, right? That's where that 60% goes. So when you say you're making $2,000 and even easy, $2,000 a month, you should have where all that money is going automatically. Okay. And you should set up multiple accounts. So maybe you have one that's a savings account, one that's another account. Maybe it's going to your Roth IRA. You automatically put it in there. So then you're only seeing the money that, that you need to see. So kind of out of sight, out of mind. That's why they do income tax. I think back in the day, people paid their taxes until they did automatic tax withholding. Automatic withholding. Who's going to pay their taxes after they already see the money? But if you automatically do it, then you'll build that discipline that you never even see it. All right, to repair my vehicle, it will cost about $1,500. Should I take it from my house down payment or use my credit card? Just pay it. See, get some other quotes of that $1,500, but I would just pay it and not use your credit card. I don't know how close you are to buying the house, but you don't want to have additional debt that could go to your debt to income ratio. And it just doesn't make, if you have the money, pay it, and then you'll save that other $1,500 up again. But I would go ahead and pay it and not use my credit card. I would try to get some other quotes to see if you can get it a little bit cheaper than that $1,500. How do you feel about splitting your direct deposit in favor of having money directed into a savings account and then another account for bills and regular spending? Yes. If you've never watched my how my husband and I do our bills, but it comes in, all of our money goes into one account. And then we have a savings account. We have some investment accounts, but all the money goes automatically. And then we have separate joint checking accounts. So one checking account, all the money goes. And then we all each have for the month what our individual spending is. And that individual spending goes into our joint accounts. And that's it. It doesn't increase every month. It's the same amount every month. And then if the joint account, I'm trying to think about this. So say we get extra money, right? Then we decide as a family what that extra money goes to based on what we decided back at the beginning of the year, what our goals were, right? So that's always moving. So I think you have to sit down and say, what are my financial goals? If I want to have this amount of money in my investment accounts by this age, what do I have to save every month for that? If I want my children, I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. So the 8-year-old is going to college. If he's going to college, that's a whole nother video. I think it's going to be less necessary for people to go to college. So, and we've had that discussion in one of our things where we're not saving for the entire college. Like I'm saving for, it's saved in different places. So we have some money in, different accounts for him, just in case he doesn't go to a 4-year traditional college. He may do a 2-year something. We don't know. So that money goes automatically into the different accounts. But all we have in our checking accounts is what we already decided at the beginning of the year is going to be our spending money. That's it. Ashley said, help. What I need to help you with? Tell me. And I will help. Okay, I think financial honesty is a big part too. You have to know and be real with what you have. Yes, be real with what you have as much as possible. Like I said, social media is like when I wasn't on really Instagram until I got on YouTube, and people were like, what's your Instagram? And I really wasn't on it. But now that I'm on it, I look at those pictures and I'm like, y'all, I want to, the families look perfect. The women look perfect. Like everything looks so good. I'm like, oh, y'all really living it up. But I'll never forget, I was looking on like Instagram or something. And my husband wasn't on Facebook for a long time, but then he finally got on it. And so we were looking at like this couple that we know, and they were like traveling and they were doing all this stuff. And we were like, oh man, they really are living. And then maybe like some months later, my mom told me that they were getting a divorce. And I was like, they were just in Jamaica last week. What happened? And I was like, it just goes to show, like, you never know what's happening. Like, you never know what's really happening. So now I just look at all that social media stuff, like as they're just showing their best, showing people the best parts of their life. All right, let's see. Use the cash. Okay, Elle agrees with me. Use the cash. Astrid, my husband is changing jobs and we just got our commitment letter. Good job. You can use, I guess you're asking about using that for your mortgage. They will take that in most cases to qualify. Quashanda, I'm like, every time I think I'm getting close to my savings goal, it's like, hold my beer. Okay. It's okay. You will get there. You will get there. I will please make a video for budgeting 101. I will. But I'll just tell you this, it's going to be very much like basic. Write that money down, get your money, write it down, and then start taking off stuff that you can't afford. Because I wasn't a real estate agent for like doing it, making six figures, all this kind of stuff. I was a teacher. My husband was a teacher. We had 2 kids in daycare, paying like $1,400 a month in daycare. So we had to, and when I was going to quit my job initially, we had to cut back. Like if it was like, we weren't buying like printer ink, like print that at work. We're not buying anything else. Like we're not buying like that's how tight our budget was, because I was going to quit my job. Like we had to make sure that whatever that goal was, we were going to hit it. So if we had to print things at work, I think our printer broke. The printer broke. And I was like, we're not buying a new printer. Like print whatever you have to do at work. We're not doing it. All right, let's see. Budgeting with Spouse 101. Yes, but please watch my, it says, the name of the video is Buying a House, but it does go over how we budget. And I tell you this, he was not a budgeter until he met me. That's me, apartment poor. Yeah, we got to just move out of these apartments. Before there was Airbnb, when I was single living in my house, I rented a room in my apartment. I knew the person, but I was like, okay, you're going to split this mortgage with me because you're going to live in this room. So y'all need roommates. Some of y'all need roommates. Some of y'all need to move back in with mom and dad for like a year, 2 years and reestablish yourself. This rent is out of control. Yeah. So when I say 25 to 30%, I'm saying of your take home pay. So if you're making $1,000 a month, your mortgage shouldn't be more than $300. Like, because if you that's house poor or apartment poor, so much money is going toward housing. You don't have enough money to pay off your debt. You don't have enough money to invest. You don't have enough money to save. You don't have enough extra money. So you have to push that. Everybody needs to live for the most part, right? We have to live in housing. It's something we have to have. So that expense needs to be minimized as much as possible. So you have room for other things. Ms. Jenkins, I'm a firm believer that just because it's approved for high dollar amount, live within your means. Okay. So I like this question. We were initially approved back when we bought this house. We were approved for $275. So that's the student loans and everything. And I said, the most we're going to do is $225. And that was because, number one, again, we had 2 kids in daycare. So we knew we had to pay that. and we wanted some room in between. So whatever the lender says you're approved for, right, doesn't mean that's what you need to spend. You probably need to back that up 10% at least or more to say, what is a comfortable mortgage payment where I can still invest money, where I can still, have some kind of fun and not live in this house and not have anything to do and got to turn off my lights because I can't pay the electric bill. Back it up and say, this is what I'm comfortable with. And I know a lot of us in this seller's market have been faced with, how far can I push it? How far can I increase it in order to get this house? But I still want you to be very faithful to your budget. Very faithful to the budget. Like I said, Instagram is I think it's the most showy place. People are closing on these houses, but you don't know what they did to get in that house. You really don't. A lot of them are paying a lot of money over appraised value. They are putting down, exorbitant amounts of earnest money. They're doing options money. So don't compare yourself to people that are like, oh, they closed, they found a house and I haven't found anything yet. Don't compare those two things because you don't know where they are financially. Stay true to where you are financially. We had a client that she didn't want to pay over 190. She was like, I'm not paying over 190. I think she was approved for like maybe, 270, 280. I've had attorneys and they like, I'm not paying over this. Once you have that set in mind, it may take you longer. I'm not saying it's going to be quick and easy. It's going to take you longer because you're not putting your full, potential out there. However, you have to live in that house long term. So you need to think long term. You don't need to think, what can I do right now? You don't need to think, is this going to be impressive for my closing pictures and my Instagram photo shoot? You need to think, okay, if what is going to be comfortable for me, because none of those people are going to be paying your bills. None of them. And so we live, if something happened on YouTube and I can't sell no my houses, we still need to be okay. So we live we haven't increased, I started doing YouTube really in the last year and a half. I don't live off YouTube money. I live off the basics, what I used to make before, because we were at a comfortable position before. So, we are just even in a better position. So we haven't increased our lifestyle to what, when I say this house was 225, we staying in this house. Something major would have to happen for us to move out of this house. All right, let me go back to that. I agree with Miss Jenkins. Miss Jenkins is smart. Yeah, okay. It says, wow, most states ask for 2 times the rental income. Yeah, I know some people in Georgia ask for 3 times the rental income. It all depends, but that's a much lower bar than when you're trying to buy a house. So, and that's what people try to compare it to. That's why I say sometimes, not all the time, people that purchase a property are usually at a better financial, better credit, better everything because they've taken those steps to purchase. Not all the time, but sometimes. What if you live in a major city and it's becoming expensive? What do you suggest on becoming a homeowner? I'm going to have an unpopular answer because I'm from New York. Let me click that. I'm from New York. I'm from the Bronx. And when I was in middle school, my mom moved, okay? Because she knew we lived in a co-op, and a co-op is like you own a little bit of it, but not the whole thing. So we lived in a co-op, and my mom knew that it was going to be nearly impossible for her to have a house in New York, just because of her income and that the housing prices weren't in line, okay? And that's the case in a lot of cities. So I want, number one, if you feel like you want to stay in that area, then you may be a renter. But again, you need to be renting at a very, very low level because not all the time, in a lot of states, there's different kind of states. Some states, it's more expensive to be a homeowner than a renter. And then in some states, like Georgia, it's more expensive to rent than to own a home. So if you're in a state like that, then you want to consider, okay, if I can live less expensively by renting, then I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to live, in that manner. And then I'm going to invest the rest of my money. So I'm okay financially. But if you truly want to be a homeowner, you may have to change your location. If that's another place in the same state, because a lot of people have virtual options now, they can move and not have to be tied to their office. Or do you need to move to another state? I mean, that's what a lot of people are doing. That's a part of this housing crisis, is that people from more expensive states, California, Washington, Seattle, all those different places, New York, New Jersey, moved to Arizona, moved to Texas, moved to Florida, moved to Georgia, Tennessee, Idaho. They moved because they realized that they couldn't get what they could get in, these other states. And they could, now money is, I did that video on the metaverse, and I did it specifically so y'all can see how the world is going. People are not going to be tied to their offices anymore. People are going to be able to move freely, work for who they want to work for, do what they want to do from their homes. And you may need to move with that. I know moving is scary. It's not something that's going to be very easy to do, but you have to see what kind of life do you want to live, right? And can you do that in your current location? And not everybody can. So you're either gonna have to increase your income a lot, and get paid a lot more in that area, or you're going to have to move to make that your income go farther in that place. If you're trying to get 20% down, can you still get seller assistance? Good question, Rena. All right, so let me put that on there. This is a tricky one. This is why a lot of the down payment assistance programs frown upon you having a lot of assets, and that is money in the bank, okay? And it's a bad situation, I think, because it kind of tells people don't save. But for example, I'll talk about our program in Georgia. It's called Georgia Dream. They don't allow you to have more than, I think $20,000 is set amount, like $20,000 in the bank to qualify. So if you have that amount of assets just saved, right, you cannot qualify. Even if you're at the income limit, you make the income guidelines. If you have too much money saved, they feel like you could use that money toward your down payment. So that might be the case with some of these programs where it's actually not recommended that you save that much money. So I want you to check the programs to see what their minimums are. If the money is in a retirement account, it typically doesn't count. So if it's in your 401k, it's in your Roth, it's in a retirement account, they don't count that. But if you have money just sitting in your account, a lot of times it will disqualify you from the down payment assistance. So you want to check that out first ahead of time, just to make sure. Hi, Kenyette, how are you doing? Hey, y'all, I know what you're laughing at too. All right, so if I get rid of credit card, if getting rid of credit cards makes your credit score drop, what do you suggest I do as far as getting rid of extra debt? Pay it off, but leave it open. So you pay off the credit card, but you leave it open. And you leave it open so your credit score does not drop, because you're going to lose the age, so the length of that credit you're going to lose, and you're also going to lose the credit mix possibly. So you want to pay off the card, but you don't have to close the card. You can get to a zero balance and just leave it open. You don't have to touch it anymore. You can put it away, but leave it. And then after say you're about to buy a house or you're about to do something financially, then you could leave it open. If you wanted to get rid of it after that, you can close it. But if you're trying to get new credit, like a house or a mortgage, then you don't want to close any of those accounts. You can pay them off, no problem, but don't close the account. You can pay off something and it can still be open. All right, I've been in my house for 11 years and was thinking of maybe doing a refi to pay down debt, but my credit isn't the strongest because of debt. I'm also in Florida. I think if you want to refinance your house for a lower down payment, and then you take the money that you're saving every month and pay off debt, that might make sense. It makes sense to refinance anyway, especially if you're at a higher mortgage payment. My mom refinanced. She was like at a high fours, I think, in interest rate. And she refinanced. Now she has a 2.5%, and she saved about $500 a month. And so that could go toward debt payments. That can go to debt payoff. So if you are going to I wouldn't refi to pay off credit card debt necessarily, because now you are putting your house up for credit card to pay off credit card debt, right? So, but you may want to refinance to get a lower payment and pay off that debt. But get some refinance quotes to see what that looks like, because there's also closing costs with refinances. So say you have $7,000 in debt, but you're going to do a refi to get, closing costs might be $7,000. So you need to get an estimate on that. But see if you can pay it off without the refi. See if you can do that. But if you have a high interest rate, it's probably worth refining anyway. I just don't want you to refi just to pay off credit card debt. But if there are other positive reasons for you to refi, then think about it. Especially if you've never refinanced before, which that's what it looks like. So I would say 11 years, you're probably going to save significantly in interest rate. All right. Any tips for budgeting for food? Okay. So, and I got so much slack for this video, but so I've said $100 per person. So if you have, unless you're single, let me say that. If you're in a household, you should try to see, and I know food has gotten really expensive, but you should try to see if you can budget $100 per person. So if you have a household of 7, that would be a $700 food budget. If you have a household of 4, that's a $400 food budget. And then if you're by yourself, then you need to say, okay, it's probably $100 is probably not going to do it, but do $200. Maybe start there and see, okay, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm going to show, like, I could be like the budget guru of this. Okay, so these are how you can, because you have to kind of put some guidelines for your spending, right? So for breakfast, let me give you an example. So for breakfast, we have almost 3 options in the morning, like weekdays: oatmeal and fruit and toast. So you have oatmeal, fruit, and toast. You could have cereal, fruit, and toast, or you can have like waffles, fruit, and toast. That's it Monday through Friday. So you can buy all that stuff in bulk. Oatmeal is not that expensive. Cereal is not that expensive. You can buy it on sale, like when sometimes at Publix or whatever, they have buy one, get one free. That's the cereal we get, right? So when it's on sale, you grab it, get 2 of them. And then you can have like stocks of cereal. And then cereal, fruit and toast, oatmeal, fruit and toast, and then waffles, fruit. Okay. So then you buy like a whole bunch of waffles, get all that stuff. And that becomes your breakfast options. And so on the weekends, that's when we might do grits or sausage and all that kind of stuff. Nobody's breaking that out on a Monday or a Tuesday, right? But that also helps you manage your spending because you're able to buy that stuff in bulk and there's some expectation of what's going to have for breakfast for those weeks. And I would say that you could do that for lunch. You can do that for dinner, and you make big pots of stuff. Like you make big meals instead of like, oh, today I want shrimp and I'm going to go buy shrimp. Today I feel like Chinese, I'm going to go make Chinese. That's emotional eating and that's emotional spending. You have to kind of sit down like I have, and I'm not the best at this at all, but there's a whole bunch of people on YouTube that show you how to meal plan. So like for the meal plan for the week, you might have, breakfast, lunch, like say those 3 options for breakfast. You have these 2 options or 3 options for lunch. And then you might have 2 to 3 for dinner where every 2 days you're making another meal. And that cuts out going to fast food for lunch and all that kind of stuff. And you basically, you're able to put some parameters on your spending. You're able to pull it back because same way that you're planning with your money at the beginning of the month, you're planning your food at the beginning of the month. It probably will be much healthier for you if you do it like that. It'll also be, you'll also be able to stop any of that emotional spending because people spend so much on fast food. And even me, like if I don't have food, like, oh, we need to go to Chick-fil-A or we need to go to whatever. And then we're spending $25, $30 at Chick-fil-A, or we're spending, going out to eat that wasn't planned for. It was because we didn't have anything to eat and we need to eat. So I'm emotionally, because we have to, I'm stressed out. We got to eat before they go to sleep. And then I make those decisions. But if we had planned for the week ahead, we would be able to save some money. So start there. There's a lot of people, I love the YouTube, TikTok, all that stuff, because it can tell if you need anything to find anything, you can find it. So if you put in, meal planning for families, how to save on groceries, you're going to be able to find all that stuff. I don't coupon because I tried it one time back in the day. It takes too much time. I couldn't do it, but I do basically go grocery shopping on the sales. And I go every week. So, I meal plan for like kind of like what I said for breakfast. You have those 3 options. Then on Saturday and Sunday you might do like biscuits and sausages and grits and stuff like that. That's pretty much the plan. So Ms. Jenkins, payment shock. That's something that NACA does, but she's putting it, saving the amount that you actually would spend on your mortgage and expensive is an awesome way to gauge comfort. Very good. If you're in the NACA program, they're going to put you on payment shock so you can get used to paying what that mortgage is, especially if it's going to be a lot more than your current mortgage. It'll definitely invest. I have a 6-year-old medical collection that I didn't know was on my credit report. Do I pay this off for applying for a mortgage? My current FICO score, I would say no, even though it's not our credit discussion, but I would say no because it's not impacting your credit. So if it's not, and a lot of times medical collections don't, I would just go ahead and get pre-approved, and I would only, even address it unless the lender tells you need to, but I wouldn't. Where's the best place to check your credit without charges? It is annualcreditreport.com. Annualcreditreport.com. That you get all of your free credit report. You get that for free. And then if you have a credit card, they give you usually with your credit card a free credit score. So you can get that there. I was gonna say something else. And then I like Credit Wise. It's with TransUnion. It has like the credit simulator and it has a credit simulator and it gives you your credit score. Credit Wise is also free. I have 2 videos. I have a video about how to get excellent credit and how to get perfect credit. And then I have one, the best credit monitoring. So I talk about that on that video. What investments do I recommend? I'm not going to recommend any specific investments, but I do recommend that you either have a Roth IRA, so if that you're making over a certain amount, under a certain amount, if you qualify, a Roth IRA or a 401k or 401(b). The only difference between a 401k and a 403b is basically if you're at a nonprofit, you probably have a 403b. Like if you're at a teacher or like work for the Red Cross or something, right? That's a 403b. If you're at a for-profit corporation, a lot of times they offer you a 401k. If they don't offer you any of that, then you probably want to do a Roth IRA. And even if they're matching you, the reason why you want to do it with your company, because they usually match you a certain amount first. And then once you're at the match, then you probably want to do a Roth after that, because the Roth is, you contribute to it post-tax. So you contribute to it after tax. But when you take it out, it's not taxed at all. So when you're ready, it's a retirement account. So you can access it at 59.5. But when you take the money out, it's not taxed at all, because you've already paid taxes on that money. All right, let's see. Yeah, y'all answered some good questions. Let me see. Samuel, thank you. Y'all are smart. Let me see what this says. All right, I'm 32, living in DC area, never owned anything. Should I pay off $20,000 in student loan in January or use down payment and using state assistance program to pay off debt and become a homeowner? Your student loan debt is so low, I would say pay it off. I mean, I think I would pay it off, and depending on your income, hopefully you're able to save for a down payment with the assistance faster. But I think people with really low student loan debt, and I consider that low, but I guess it's relative to your income, I would pay that off and then buy. It's sometimes when you're looking at, say you had $80,000 in student loan debt and it was going to take you 4 years, I may stabilize my income, because it's all about stabilizing your income a lot of times with home ownership. You stabilize your income and then you attack the debt. I like that better than, and I don't know what the cost of living in DC is. I would assume it's kind of high. I like that better than living in your apartment and then next month they're like, it's going up $200. And now you have to move. Oh, it's going to go up to this amount. You don't know what that rental amount is going to be in the next 2 to 3 years. So I like to stabilize your income first and then start paying things off. But $20,000, hopefully you're making a decent amount of income where you can pay that off pretty quickly and then turn around and buy the house. That's what I would do. And I just know, and I think I've said this before, when we lived in this house, our mortgage, because I know people try to scare people, oh, your mortgage, and taxes are going to go up and all that stuff's going to go up. Our mortgage has gone up in the last 6 years about $30 to $50 at the most. And 1 year, When we used to live in an apartment, they were going to go up $250. 1 year, same apartment, same everything, $250 increase. So I think housing, having a mortgage, stabilize, if you buy it, still within your means, that 25 to 30%, it stabilizes it, where you don't have these wide swings in your housing payment year after year. They stay pretty stable for the most part. All right. What Excel? Go Excel. I need to be sponsored by Excel. Precious, watch my points video. I have a video all about points and how that works. Let's see. Any questions? Look at this question. Do I have to disclose all of my bank accounts when applying for a home, even if I won't use the funds and all of them to purchase my first home? No, unless you're getting down payment assistance of some sort, or unless you are supposed to make under a certain income, depending on what loan you're getting. You don't. You only need to show them enough to qualify, but it could be considered mortgage fraud if, so say that you're not supposed to, have a certain income, not supposed to make over a certain amount, and they find out later that you have additional income that you didn't disclose. That can be an issue. But for the most part, when you're getting a basic loan with no assistance or no government income caps or anything like that, you can just show them enough to qualify. All righty. Let's see. I've eliminated all automatic payments. Take control. Hey, Nicole, how are you? Thank you for stopping by. Shahid, you came up from the mud. I don't know. I don't know if that's mean or nice, I guess. Let me see. Okay, should it be 20 or 30% of net income? I say yes. Your net income to me is take home pay. Like, what are you coming home with? That's the money you really can deal with. Like, you can't really deal with the money that you don't have in your bank account. So I want you to always do things based on take home pay. Take home pay. All righty. Do you have any videos on how to select a lender and a realtor? Yes, of course I do. So watch. I have how to hire and fire your agent, and I also have how to pick the best lender and the best rate. So I have playlists. So that playlist would be under mortgage, I guess. But if you just search on my channel for realtor or search on my channel for lender, you'll be able to find it. Somebody else with a super chat. Thank you. If I'm 100%, let me see if I could. I don't know if I could bring that. Let me get rid of this. Hold on 1 second. Hi, current comment. All right. If I'm 100% financing the house with my income, will my stay-at-home wife's credit affect mine? She stayed home since the pandemic and has 3 medical. No, she'll have no impact on your ability to qualify for the loan. Unless you're doing some kind of down payment assistance and they're looking at household income, her credit won't impact you though, because she's not on the loan. It's kind of like you're buying a house by yourself. They don't even know about her for the most part, right? You should add her to your deed just in case something happens to you. Y'all don't have wills or trusts. Add her to the deed. She automatically gets the house. If you're tenants with rights of survivorship, she'll get the house automatically. But if you're, just because you're married in most states, consult with your attorney. But in Georgia, I could go buy a house without my husband knowing, right? I could go buy a house. He would have no idea, but I don't need, well, you're going to check with your husband on this loan. It wouldn't matter. Like, I show them the income. But yeah, you could buy a house and apply for a mortgage without your spouse's credit. It'll be completely in your name as long as you have enough income to carry it. Their credit would not have any impact on that. Quick name, do you recommend taking money out equity? It depends on what you're using it for. What are you using it for? If you're using it to buy additional assets, so say like you're taking some money out to buy a house, like a rental property or something like that, yes. But I don't really recommend it to pay off debt, because you're taking a secured property and you are transferring it into an unsecured. Like, if you don't pay your credit card debt, they're not going to come take your house, right? But if you don't pay off your home equity loan or something, they're going to come take your house. Like, your house is collateral for that. So you need to keep those two things separate. So if you have credit card debt, pay off your credit card debt. Don't try to start tying your credit card debt an unsecured debt. So credit cards are unsecured. If you don't pay your credit card, they'll mess up your credit. If you don't pay up your credit card, they'll mess up your credit. But generally speaking, there's no collateral behind it. They can't come take something from you. But when you start tying your credit card debt to your house, if you say you take out a home equity loan and you can't pay your home equity loan, now they can have, they could come possibly for your house because that house is collateral for that home equity loan. That's why I say keep them the two separate. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to answer. We're kind of going over 110. I'm going to answer any more questions that are in the chat as of 8:15. But if you want me to do this again, I definitely will. I think our next one's going to be about credit, all about credit. But I heard you loud and clear. We're going to do a budgeting one-on-one video, and we'll also do a credit video. But please watch the married couple kind of thing. I have that video on there. I have a lot of the videos that you probably need. You just need to search for it. Should I start paying my student loan or ask for forbearance, waiting to buy a new home? It depends on how far you are out for doing it. So let me take this question. If you are close to saving the amount that you need for your house, maybe take a couple of months and pay it off. Make sure that, because a lot of people, I know I did a video on public loan forgiveness. There's a lot of people on forbearance and deferment that really need to be in repayment on an income-based plan, because those payments can go toward forgiveness. But if you're on forbearance, that doesn't go toward anything. So make sure you're not on public loan. You're not eligible for public loan forgiveness. Make that first. But I would say if you're close to saving the amount for your house, then go ahead. If not, you may want to start paying off your student loan debt, either some kind of plan. It really depends on, look at your interest rates, look at all that kind of stuff to see what makes the most sense. So I don't want to answer just because I don't know what your interest rate on the student loans are. I know what the mortgage interest rates are, but if your student loan debt interest rate is really high, you may want to start paying that down, because you don't want, say your student loan debt is $25,000 and you don't pay it for 2 years, then that debt now might be $30,000 or $40,000. So it really depends on how quickly you're going to be able to do both. Hoping to find a house in March. Yes, half and half. I hope you do. Okay, will the house prices go down now that the Fed raised the interest rates? Good question. Okay, so the Fed lowered the interest rates, right, to push money into the economy. So people would, still borrow money, still spend money, and it worked, right? People got out. I'm going to buy a house. Interest rates are cheap. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to invest. I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. It worked. Now that inflation is crazy because there's too much money in the economy, right? People had too much money. And so prices went up. Plus we have a supply chain issue. So it's like a perfect storm. You can't find anything, supply chain issues. And then you also have, sorry, my mouth is really dry. You have supply chain issues. And you also have supply chain items and interest rates, right? So as he raises the interest rate, that might pull back some people, right, from some of the demand that was for housing may pull back, because people are like, okay, I could afford it at 2.5 or 3%, but can I afford it at 3.5%? And right now, I think people still can't afford it at 3.5%. They're still going to be out there. It would have to raise where people can't afford it anymore, like significantly. And I say this because there was a one subdivision in Atlanta, and the waiting list for housing in this subdivision, they had 250 people, might have been more than that, 250 people on this waiting list, maybe 2,000 people, I forget. But it was a lot of people on this waiting list to buy a house. I think if interest rates went up, 0.5%, those people still need a house, because what is the alternative? The alternative is to rent. And guess what? Rent is super high too. So it's like, unless you're moving in with your friends and your family, you have to live somewhere. So people would rather buy a house than to pay. And again, a lot of it's lifestyle. A lot of people don't want to live in an apartment. A lot of people don't want to rent somebody else's house. And those prices are just as high, right? So if I'm going to get a 2-bedroom apartment in Atlanta, I might be paying $2,000, $2,500. I would pay the extra 0.5% and buy a house. So, and every market's going to be a little bit different. But in order for house prices to go down significantly, inventory is going to have to increase, and enough people are going to have to get out of the housing market because they can't afford it. And I don't think people are out of the housing market because they can't afford it. They're really out of the housing market because they can't find anything. They can't find properties. So they're like, let me just wait. I can't find anything in my price range. So that's, I think my final answer is, and I am going to do a housing market 2022. Property values went up this year, 2021, like 13%. Okay. They're not expected to go down. They're expected to increase less, right? So instead of prices going up 13%, they're going to go up maybe 5%, 4%, but they're still going higher. They're not going lower. Most economists are saying it's not going lower. So at what point does that interest rate have to be where enough people say, I'm not buying a house, I'm not doing it? And then those same people, say it goes up to 4%. Those same people will say, okay, I got to live somewhere. I'm going to an apartment. So I don't think prices will rise as much. Plus, a lot of people like myself, homeowners are sitting on these low interest rates too. We're sitting on these 2%. A lot of people refinance, they bought. So our interest rates are low as well. And when I'm listing a property, the first question I ask, where are you going? Because the house that you got in 2010, the house that you got in 2016, you can't even find that same kind of house at that value. You're going to pay double, right? And you're probably going to get a smaller house. That's how much prices have increased. So I think you should still be out in the market. It's going to take you longer. I think you should still stay on your budget. So it is a little bit frustrating, I think, for a lot of buyers right now, but it's definitely not impossible to find what you need. All right, let me see. I'm only answering L. Yes, I used to live in Co-op City. See, we're like family. I don't know. Yes, I did used to live in Co-op City. I'm only answering budget questions. So I'm going down the line, try to get anybody before 8 o'clock. Okay, I'll answer this question. It says, I saw in another video that lenders are taking rental history as an approval factor. How does that work? If you have limited credit history, and say you've been living with family or something like that, or you just been renting, you don't have a lot of credit history, they will take your rental history as a factor in approving your loan. So, and that's a new change, but that's for conventional financing at this point. Fannie Mae is doing it. FHA hasn't announced that they're doing it yet, but yeah, so your rental history. So I advise you, if a lot of people, if you're living with family, you need to start paying them at least $300 a month, because they're looking at paying $300 or more. So if you're paying $300 or more, they'll count that rental payment history. You can't have bad credit though. So don't see that, oh, I got a 500 credit score, but I've been paying my rent. They're going to give me a mortgage. That's not, but it's going to be people that are on like the borderline of qualification, or that don't have a lot of credit history, that are going to be able to use their rental history and get approved. So if you are living with somebody, family members, and you're not paying them anything, you may want to start paying them something, or have some kind of documentation showing that you paid them something, so that can count towards your mortgage approval. But it has to be at least $300. So $300 or more, you need to start, documenting that you're paying. Y'all talking about hiding money. Let me see. I'm gonna skip all that. Lachey says sometimes you don't use your credit card, sometimes they close your account. Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. So, just see if they're going to close it before you pay it off. And if so, just make sure you keep it under 10% until you can close, and then maybe close it. I think I answered that question. Should you build credit before budgeting, and what credit score should you maintain? Credit and budgets don't really have that much to do together, unless you're just, you're making sure your bills are paid on time, right? So you're making sure your bills are paid on time, but there's no set. You want to be at the highest credit score possible, but at 850 is the highest. To get the best interest rates though, you're probably at 740 or higher. You're going to get the same interest rate as somebody 800. So you want to get it at least a 740 or higher to get the best interest rates, if that's what you're asking. But I think you budget always. You don't budget for good credit. You budget always. Anytime you have money and you want to be a good steward of that money, you budget it all the time. It's not just for certain instances. Like, I'm gonna put a budget together so I can do this. You should budget any money that you get all the time, so you make the best use of that money. And let me see. I'm purchasing a home and thinking about putting 10% in the bank to have auto payments come out for my mortgage. And then before it's due, I just put that money back in the account. What's your opinion? I just don't. I guess, are you doing it just in case the auto payment messes up or something? I just don't why you have to put it in a separate account just for the mortgage. I mean, if you want to do that, I just feel like unless your mortgage is $10,000, say your mortgage is $2,000, why is the other $8,000 in there? Because you could be doing something else with that $8,000. So my answer is no, I think, to that question, because I don't think it's necessary. And I don't want you to put money. I don't want you to put money in an account that's not doing anything, because it could be used for other things than just putting $10,000 in the bank. That's a lot. I'm single, budget $35 a week. Yes. Mine was $25, and it kind of became a game, right? Like, okay, how much of this do I need to spend? How many of this do I need to save? Or, it just allows you to really figure this out. As a single person, I can make $100 work. Girl, I think you have to know how to cook too, though, y'all. Y'all have to know how to cook. To really stretch a grocery budget, you have to know how to cook. So Aldi, I haven't. My mom talks about Aldi, but me, I haven't made no Aldi. All right. Aldi hasn't been my friend. My 30-year rate is 2.875. Is it worth refinancing for a mortgage payment? Probably not. You're probably not going to get anything lower than that right now unless you're doing a 15-year loan. So you can look into that, but it may not be worth it because you already have a really low interest rate. It's 2 people in my house. I never spend that much. I probably missed something. I don't know. All right, I'm going now. Learning to cook instead of buying also helps you save. Try cooking your favorite meals. I love that. Will this be a good idea? I'm trying to answer your question. Let me see this real quick. Credit cards are maxed out when trying to increase limit. For example, Capital One, my credit limit is maxed out, but they offer another card. I might be able to pay down some stuff. Why is everything maxed out? Because when you max out your available credit, your credit score is gonna take a major hit because you're at the max. You're at the max, right? So no, I wouldn't get a new card. I would start paying off that card. You mad strict with the food budget. I'd be dying by the end of the week. You'll be okay. When is it like 70% of Americans are overweight? We probably eating too much food anyway. Y'all eating too much. We all eating too much. Can we talk about these darn student loans? Oh, hold on. Can we talk about these student loans, my Parent Plus loans? Any advice? You got to budget and pay them off. If you qualify for any kind of if you qualify for any kind of public loan forgiveness, any loan forgiveness of any sort, look into that. But the hard and fast truth is you have to pay it off. Like, you're gonna have to start paying it off, because especially if you like Parent Plus loans, you might be getting ready for retirement and still paying your kids' student loans. So hopefully you just can buckle down and pay. If there's no way for you to get any kind of forgiveness on them, you have to buckle down and say, okay, I have $50,000. Can I pay this off in 2 years? Can I pay it off in 3 years? How quickly can you get that paid off? But there is going to be some sacrifice you're going to have to make. Can you increase your income to pay it off? That's a whole nother video I need to do just on how to increase your income, so you can make more money. Because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I want to make sure I still qualify, so I stay at this income level, but it's not the smartest idea for you to do. All righty. I think I answered all those questions. I'm at 8:11. Hey, Bear, did you close? Bear, tell me if you closed. Can you use a VA loan with down payment assistance? Yes, in a lot of states. She started a business 2 months ago. Does that help? If you're not using her income, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter that she started. And even if she started a business 2 months ago, okay, this is what you can do if you're married, right? You can still be on the loan yourself. If her business is going to be contributing to your down payment or your closing costs, then your wife can gift you the money for your down payment or closing costs, but she's still not on the loan, right? They could have a lot of couples that one person is on the mortgage, other person is not. The one spouse officially gifts the money, the down payment or the closing costs or something to the other spouse. So then you have like a gift. So ask your lender, say, I'm going to be on the loan. My wife is not going to be on the loan, but we're going to use some of her money, right, to help with the down payment or the closing costs. And that one spouse can gift the money to the other spouse. That's probably, I'm hoping that's what you're saying. If you're going to be using some of her money from the business toward the house, she needs to be gifting you the money, officially gifting you the money. Oh, you guys, you're late. Let me see. Yes, tap the like button, please. Tap the like button. This is great. Thank you, Miss Jenkins. You're great as well. Bear, did you close? Why are you doing that? Does that mean yes? You closed? Are grant assistance programs timely with paying? Yes. Most of them are government funded, so you'll get if you get qualified for them, you will get the money. All right, thank you. Hit the like button, you guys. I'm trying to make sure I have all your questions answered. Don't try to type nothing else. Okay. All right, press the like button. Seafood boils. Let's see. Yes, a video on how to increase your income. Yes, yes, yes. I'm definitely going to do it because a lot of us need to be doing some kind of online business. Everybody. I mean, let me tell you right now, if I knew, I taught for 14 years, and it wasn't until like the last year of me teaching, I got on YouTube. I should have been on YouTube like year one when YouTube, I know, was out there. Because if you have any kind of knowledge, right? Because teachers, of course, if you're a calculus teacher, you should have a calculus channel. If you're a cooking teacher, you should have a cooking channel. If you're an English teacher, you should have an English channel. Whatever your skill is, you should be putting it into the marketplace because I promise you, there's somebody that needs that information. But sometimes we're so like, I was so set on like, this is what I'm doing. This is stable income. I still did real estate. I still did like little things on the side, but I really didn't focus on it because I was so focused on teaching and my family and all that kind of stuff. And I keep on telling this story to some people. The only reason I'm back in real estate is because when we were going to buy our next house, I asked my friend who's a real estate agent to represent us. I was like, well, just represent us because I'm not going to renew my license or whatever. And she was like, Shahida, you need to just renew your license so you represent yourself and you can keep the commission. And I was like, oh, I guess. So I went ahead and renewed my license. In 2016, I renewed my license. And here I am. If she was like, oh, I'll represent you, then I wouldn't be here at all. Like I'd probably be like an assistant principal somewhere or something like that because it wasn't my intention to get back in real estate. It really wasn't. So number one, keep good friends around you because they make sense even when you don't make sense. And then always have some kind of side hustle money that can possibly become your next business. Even if you don't know, like I didn't know how to use YouTube when I first started. Like I Googled how to put up a video. I Googled how to do this, how to do that. And then once I figured that out, I just kept on doing it and kept on doing it. So there's so many different opportunities that people have online now that we didn't have before. It kind of levels the playing field with the amount of money you can make. So yes, I will do a video on how to budget. I will do a video on how to increase your income. I used to sell stuff on side note. And I need to get off of this, but side note, I used to sell stuff on Etsy and I was selling things on Etsy. I had my real estate license and I was doing well on Etsy, but it was a physical product. So I had to ship it out. Like I would make, it was like a school organizing box. So I would make the school organizing box. I would get the orders in. I would wake up early, put the boxes together, put them in my car, go to teach, go to work, then stop at the post office on my way back, ship the boxes, and then come back home. Like, so it was like that. So I knew I couldn't scale that. Like, I was like, these boxes are taking me too long to even put together. And so it wasn't, I knew it was a limit to what I could physically do. But for some people, y'all need to be on Etsy with your businesses because that's an easy way. Like the platform's already there and people are looking for certain products. So if you have any kind of craft in you, and not even crafty, you can sell online products on Etsy, like digital products, and you could have somebody make the digital product for you and just set it up in your shop. So there's a lot of different opportunities that people need to start taking advantage of, especially in 2022. These prices are not going lower. Like these prices, even if home prices might go down a little, they're not projected to, but just everyday stuff is more expensive. And a lot of people's salaries aren't going up to match that, that expense. And Bear, you did not close. Bear, no, waiting on the seller to sign contract. I've sent over earnest money. I missed you, Bear. Oh, I sent over earnest money. Let me show this. Because Bear has been waiting to close. I sent over earnest money. Now just a waiting game. Closing date they have is in March. Okay, I hope this is new construction because I didn't think you were doing new construction. But if it's in March, hopefully it's new construction. All right, you guys. I think we're done because I'm all caught up. Thank you, guys. Woo! Yes. So I need to start a YouTube channel. Whatever, just put it out there. That's what I say. Whatever knowledge you have, I want you to put it out there because when I look at everybody's not like, they don't have that much knowledge and they got channels and these 16-year-olds out here, making millions of dollars on YouTube. I'm sure you have knowledge that you can share definitely and do the same thing. If anyone loves, okay, we'll end with Ray Maxey. If anyone loves t-shirt design, apply to Amazon's program. It's called Merch by Amazon. Once accepted, you can make sales and you receive royalty payments off every sale. Great idea. So all of things like that. I really appreciate you guys. Have a great night tomorrow. Tomorrow's video is about how to buy your first rental property, how to buy your first investment property. All right. Love you guys. Good night.